Hello there and welcome to the second edition of the QCast podcast with me, Steve Q, and I am very happy and privileged to have as my guest this week Mr. David Mills, who has been at the forefront of the cosmetic surgery industry here in the UK for many, many years, and we're just going to open up and have a conversation about David's life and career. So, David, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So, whereabouts you from originally, David?
So, originally born and bred in Sheffield.
Oh, yeah. Know it well.
Yeah, up in Nether Edge Hospital, which is no longer there now.
Right.
But then raised in a place called Anston, which is still got a Sheffield postcode, about 10 miles outside of Sheffield Centre. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and do you still live in Sheffield?
Rotherham now.
Rotherham.
Yeah, so
yes.
Apart from a short stint in Spain, I've always lived in South Yorkshire, really.
Yeah. South Yorkshire, Spain. There's a bit of a contrast there.
There is, especially when it comes to the weather.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're not wrong there. So whereabouts in Spain did you live?
So we lived in Marbella for about 7 years.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
We had a business in Marbella.
And was that actually in, because a lot of people say, oh, I live in Marbella, but they actually live maybe near Malaga or, I used to say that myself, but I lived up in the Campo for a while.
Yeah. Well, no, we lived in a place called Guadalmina, which is about a 10-minute drive. Down into Puerto Banús, to be specific, was where the hospital was.
Right.
So it was a really nice location, you know.
Sure.
The hospital was by the beach, so.
Yeah. There's worse places for hospitals, isn't
there?
Yeah.
Well, actually, the hospital. They said the hospital used to belong to Sophia Loren. It was her villa.
Oh wow!
Years ago. That was the story.
We lived up near a place called Coen, spelt Coin.
Yes,
have you heard of
I've
that?
been there, just inland.
Yeah. So bless him, because he's gone now. Rick Parfitt from Quo used to live up there, and we used to see him about. Yeah. Nice guy, wasn't he?
Very, very nice guy.
Yeah.
Very down to earth.
Yeah. He was just one of those guys, though, that he never grew up, did he? He just wanted to have fun, make music, and have a laugh. You know, that was him, wasn't it? You know, I could identify with that, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, tell me, what were you an avid scholar when you were at school? Were you one of these people who excelled, got all their O levels, A levels, and went to uni?
Not quite.
Oh right. Okay.
Not quite. No, I was an avid scholar up until I was 16.
Okay.
But when I was young, from being a very young boy, I always wanted to study medicine.
Okay.
I always wanted to be a doctor.
Right.
And back in 1970s comprehensive education, you had a very short career. Careers advice, if you like. And I had a 5-minute meeting. I'll never forget it because my mother was there.
Right.
And the teacher asked my mother, not me, asked my mother, what does he want to do then?
So you were just sat there.
I was just sat there.
What does he want to do?
In my school uniform, not saying anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And my mother said, well, he wants to be a doctor.
Right.
So the teacher, Mr. Rhodes, looked down at my notes and he looked up and he said, oh no. He said his arts subjects are much better than his science. And that was it. I mean, when I was at school, he's very different now. Yeah. But when I was at school, you never ever questioned anything the teachers said. Yeah. What they said went.
Yeah.
So that was the end of my...
No Dr. Mills.
No Dr. Mills. So I was slightly disenchanted after that.
Right.
And I made a snap decision at 16 not to go back and do my A-levels.
Okay.
So I went into work.
Right.
I was offered a job. I'd already been working in a supermarket part-time from being 14. Okay. And they offered me a full-time job, which I thought, well, I'm just going to do it, you know. Yeah. I'm just not going to go back to school. I'd had enough.
Right. And your mum was okay with that, yeah?
Well, I think, she must have been at the time. I think, and also I think at that time, there was an element that you were expected to go to work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
We came
entirely.
from quite a poor background, so
Right.
every penny counted. So I felt also slightly obligated to go to work. So that's what I did.
To contribute to the household,
To contribute. So I did that, and I went from job to job, and then no job. And then there was a time when I thought, well, you know what, if I can't be a doctor, I'm going to get involved in something medical. I had no idea what.
Yeah.
Absolutely no idea. So I took a copy of the Yellow Pages.
Right.
And I was flicking through, and I sent off letters, no emails then, of course. I sent off letters to every company I could think of. I can't even remember what I wrote now, because I had no qualifications and no experience in anything. And I sent off hundreds of these. And then one day, I had a letter back.
Right.
From a hair transplant clinic in Sheffield. And I can't even remember writing to this hair transplant clinic, but he wanted to see me.
Okay.
So I went for an interview, and he said, well, we're looking for a patient coordinator, someone to tell patients all about hair transplants and so on.
Okay.
So I said, well, I'm sure I could do that. This was a Friday afternoon, and he started me on the Monday morning.
Wow, fantastic. So that rides over. My next question was going to be, did you go to university? You didn't do that. My next question after that was, how did you get involved in the cosmetic surgery industry or business?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So,
which is clearly, that was the start of things, hair transplants. Yeah.
That was the start of it. So it was about August 1981. I started work in this hair transplant clinic.
Okay.
And
I obviously missed that one. You've no need.
Plenty of others. So I started there, and this was in August, and I quickly realised that I could do this job. I was very good at explaining to guys about hair transplants and getting things organised and so on. And I started.
And this was when? Excuse me.
August 81.
81.
1981.
1981.
Was when I started in the business.
Okay.
And I started earning quite a lot of money. I was doing very well. I think my father, when I went home, I think my dad he didn't understand what the heck I was doing, and I think he was slightly worried that he saw me buying this and buying that, and enjoying the spoils.
Was there an element of sales in this? Were you getting sort of commission or profit share in that business?
There was. I was promoting the company. So guys that were coming in about hair transplants and they wanted to have one, it was my job to make sure that they had one with our business.
Yeah.
Rather than another.
Yeah.
And I quickly found that I had a flair for it.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure.
So that was going well, and then it was Christmas week of the same year.
Yes.
And I remember arriving for work one morning, and I was still coming to work on a bus then. And I can see myself now crossing the pedestrian crossing to see two guys taking out the dental chair. It was a dental chair, taking it out the building. And I remember thinking, I don't remember that we ordered another dental chair. So I went into the building, and I went upstairs to the level where we were.
Yeah.
And there was nothing there, except for one guy with a clipboard.
Right.
And he said, I said to him, you can't do that. That's our dental chair. I work here. And he said, you don't anymore, son. And the business had gone bust. So suddenly I find myself out of work, Christmas week of December 1981.
Never the best time. No.
Never the best time. And I thought, well, that was that.
Okay, so I'm just slightly confused because you said that it sounded from what you were saying, you were getting home, you're buying this, that, the other, probably spending loads of money on clothes at the time and stuff like that. Sounds like the business was burgeoning. How come you got there and it had gone bust?
Well, I have absolutely no idea.
To this day?
No. You have to draw your own conclusions to that.
Yeah.
But there were lots of patients coming in, lots of people were having
It's interesting,
surgery.
That there's people like you who are entrepreneurs, and I know a lot of people who would never ever take those kind of risks, and they believe in job security, quote unquote job security, but to me, a lot of the time, unless you may be working for the government or a huge organisation, that's a kind of a fallacy. It's kind of a false concept, because like you thought you'd got job security, but clearly maybe the owner of that business was being frivolous with the cash and not reinvesting it in the business, you know. So the boss of somebody's company could be doing anything with the money, you know.
Yeah.
So it all looks good on the surface. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's just a take on job security there, you know. Definitely. So what did you do then? You found yourself out of work just before Christmas.
That's right. Found myself out of work, and the hair transplant clinic was on the first floor of this building.
Okay.
But on the ground floor was a hair clinic owned by the landlord of the property. He owned the building, and he was an elderly man. And he said to me, he said, "David, why don't you buy my business?"
Okay.
So that's what I said. Okay. I said, "Well, I don't know how that's going to happen. Look," I said, "I'm only 20. I've absolutely no money. I'm owed a month's wages by the business that have just gone." He said, "Well, look," he said, "I bought a place in America." He says, "My wife's giving me a hard time because we never go there. I'm tied to this place."
Yeah.
"Look," he said, "you're out of work. You did a good job for them. It could be an opportunity for you." So I said, "Well, look, you know, how much do you want for the business?" And he said, "I want £12,500.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, he may as well have said 12,500,000
Sure.
pounds, because £12,500, even 1981, was worth £12,500. There was absolutely no way that there was no way I could ask my parents. There was nobody I knew.
Yeah.
And I said this. I said, "Look, I just haven't got the money." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do." He said, "You pay me £20 a week for 5 years. That'll be the 10,000, and we'll sort the other 2,500 along the way."
Okay. Pay as you go.
Pay as you go.
Right.
So the Monday after, I found myself at, I think I was 21. I was in business.
In business for yourself, yeah?
In business for myself for the first time.
Fantastic.
And sure enough, he trained me in the business, showed me how to go on. And every week, he came usually on a Friday and collected his £20.
Right, okay. And you've never looked back?
No, not really. That was my start of, the start of everything.
So when you say that he had a hair clinic, how did that differ from hair transplants?
Well, this was a clinic that specialised in treating scalp diseases such as psoriasis, eczema, alopecia, various scalp complaints. And when I first started, he said to me, "Look," he says, "you've got to be involved in hair transplants." He says, we need to get some sort of connection." He says, "There's a little clinic in Manchester called Transform." He says, "They do hair transplants. Why don't we go and see them?
Right.
See if they'll do hair transplants for you, and you can get some sort of payback and everyone's
commission.
Commission."
Yeah.
So off we went to see Transform, and they said, sure, we'd love to do the hair transplant for you. I've got a young man, he lives out your way in Doncaster, called John Ryan.
Okay.
He's a salesman, he'll come and see your patients for you.
Right.
So that's the first time I met John Ryan, who ultimately bought Transform out in 1987 as this cosmetic surgery boom really began to happen. Yeah.
That was one of my questions. When did this industry, and you've just answered it, around about 1987, it really sort of took off, yeah?
From then onwards, I would say.
And would you say that hair transplants within the industry were kind of the inaugural product or service? Was that the first thing that really started to take off?
Yeah, I think it was for me. I mean, well, because I was introduced to the world of hair transplants.
Yes.
And, celebrities were getting hair transplants even back then.
Yeah.
And it was common knowledge that they'd had one.
Yeah.
Not so much cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
But then in 1987, when John Ryan, by this time, had bought a considerable shareholding in Transform, we decided to merge my business and form a new company called Transform Medical Group Sheffield Limited.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, I found myself as a managing director of a subsidiary company.
Yes.
And suddenly it was not just hair transplants, but it was cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
So we had a clinic that was registered back then with the Sheffield Health Authority.
Right.
And, you know, back then it was lots of liposuction, breast augmentation. These procedures were just beginning to take off.
Yeah.
And you know, the public were becoming aware of them. There was still a taboo around cosmetic surgery.
I was going to say,
then,
back then people must have only associated cosmetic surgery, facelifts, boob jobs, hair transplants, maybe with Hollywood celebrities and stuff like that, not with your ordinary person on the street. Is that right?
Very true. In fact, there was I always remember, outside of the clinic, there was a bus stop.
Okay.
And it was on, you probably know Ecclesall Road in Sheffield.
I know it very well.
A very busy thoroughfare, isn't it, through into Sheffield Centre. And there was a bus stop outside the clinic. And on clinic days, we seemed to be getting quite a few patients who didn't turn up.
Okay.
So, of course, we used to ring them and say, you had an appointment at 2:30, but you didn't show.
Right.
Oh, yes, I did. I came to your clinic. You never told me there was a bus stop outside your clinic, and I was never going to walk up your path with all those people on the bus watching me attend your clinic.
Yeah, so we know what he's going for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how times have changed. I mean,
wow.
Can you imagine that now? I mean, you just...
Yeah.
You know, everybody tells everybody they've had a boob job, a nose job, or whatever.
Yeah. It's no big deal, is it?
But back in '87...
Yeah, I guess you were your clients, your patients at that time were really the early adopters. And I guess it was more cost prohibitive than what it is now as well.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, very much so. Not the access to finance and so on.
Yeah.
But they were the early adopters, you're absolutely
early
right.
adopters, and now it's gone into mass acceptance, hasn't it? You know, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be shocking or surprising, would it, to, you know, ring your mate up and say, what you're doing this weekend? Have you got, and the guy says, well, my wife's going in for a boob job this weekend, we'll go out. And it'd probably be just left at that. It wouldn't be shocking, would it?
No.
You know, whereas back then it would have been like, ooh, really?
Very much so.
Yeah.
So.
That's what, 1981, that's the thick end of 30 odd years, isn't it, David? How would you say that the industry has evolved or changed most noticeably over that period of time?
Well, of course, I think the internet has been a massive factor in that. I mean, back in 81, I can't even remember the internet around.
No.
Incredibly to think that, but there wasn't.
It's hard to think of life before it, isn't it?
Life before the internet. So I think that's a massive, massive factor, because there's so much awareness now, so much information out there. And also, of course, you spoke about the early adopters.
Yeah.
Well, now everybody knows someone's grandma, never mind mum. Grandma had cosmetic surgery, mum's had cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got this understanding and awareness and acceptance of it. I think that's the biggest factor.
Yeah, so when would you say specifically that sort of a taboo or stigma around cosmetic surgery, when did that start to really dissipate and it move into mass acceptance?
Well, I'd have to think the early 90s.
Yeah.
Because when I think back to my days at Transform, you know, in the 90s we were opening lots of new clinics up and down the country. In Ireland, Scotland. Yeah. The business was growing so fast.
Exponentially.
Oh yeah. So fast.
Yeah.
The demand was incredible, really.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had any cosmetic surgery. Clearly, I've never had a hair transplant as well. Or if I did have done it, would have gone horribly wrong, clearly. But I remember seeing Transform Medical all over the place. Sides of buses, on the telly, on the radio, glossy, you know, Sunday supplement magazines. You were obviously big on advertising budget and creating awareness all over the UK.
Yeah. Back then, I think it's the same now. There were sort of 3 or 4 major, big providers of cosmetic surgery. Transform's still one of them. There are 1 or 2 others. But most of the growth came in the 90s. Yes. And of course, by this time I I was sort of working around the country, opening new clinics,
Yeah.
getting them established and so
Yeah, yeah,
on. And then by this time we had a team of probably 30, 40 patient coordinators
Right.
based around 16, 17 clinics
Yeah.
scattered across the country. And by
Yeah.
this time it was my job to look after them all.
yeah.
So I became sales director and then ultimately joint managing director.
Right, with John Ryan, yeah?
Well, John was the chairman.
He was
by
the
this
chairman,
time.
yeah.
And in 2002, John sold Transform.
Right,
Transform was sold,
okay.
which was a massive change because, you know,
Yeah.
when you work for an entrepreneur, which John Ryan is,
Yes,
suddenly we were catapulted into a much more sort of corporate structure,
yes.
which was okay, but very, very different to working
Very-
for an entrepreneur.
Very, 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 very different.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of smiling to myself inwardly, going back to when you sat there with your mum, with the headmaster, who said, no, art, and you'd never make it as a doctor or in the medical industry. Yet here you were some years later, joint MD of the biggest, I think, cosmetic surgery group in the UK. So you're probably earning very good money out of the medical industry, but you'd not even become a doctor. I mean, what a paradigm shift for a guy like that would
Yeah.
have been. They wouldn't be able to get their head round it,
No,
would they?
no.
You know?
It's a bit surreal, really,
Yeah.
when you think about it
Yeah.
that way. I mean, I was working alongside lots and lots of very, very talented men and women,
Yeah.
doctors, surgeons. You know.
Yes.
And there was always a slight envious feeling that,
Yeah.
you know, I always had that little piece of me, always sort of
Yeah.
a regret that you could never really let go of, because that was the dream ultimately.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was great to get involved in, and you know, I was involved in all aspects of, you know,
Yeah.
managing hospitals and recruitment of surgeons and
Yeah.
making sure all the plates were spinning.
Yeah. And did you, because I came from a very ordinary background in Yorkshire as well. I don't know about your parents, I'd be really interested, and you yourself in your formative years, and maybe still now, but my mother particularly really put people like doctors, lawyers, the so-called at the time professional people on a pedestal.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 70s, the doctor was right up there with the vicar.
Yeah.
The doctor and the vicar, you never, ever, ever questioned.
No.
Whatever they said was absolutely cast in stone and was correct.
Yeah.
And that's how it was, really.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? That
Yeah.
because my uncle was a archetypal old school solicitor, very, very plumb in the mouth.
Yeah.
That just got that particular manner, you know, with him. And whenever we went round there, my mother always told us, you know, so he was my auntie's husband, my paternal auntie's husband.
Uh-huh.
But whenever we went round there, which was about 3 or 4 times a year, we were told by my mum, not by my dad, interestingly enough, he'd come from a public school background that my
Right.
mum hadn't come from, yeah. But we were told by my mum definitely to mind our P's and Q's and speak properly and whatnot, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
funny. And back then, of course, now we say someone is a professional so-and-so, whatever, professional photographer, professional. But back then, the professions were strictly like accountancy, lawyers, doctors, you know, that was it, wasn't it? There was that sort of, I suppose, snobbery, if you like, especially in England, about
there
it.
was. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
There was. And of course, I suppose the teaching profession, I mean, I remember, you know, when I was at school, you never questioned a teacher.
No.
You never dared question. I mean, when I hear that, I mean, it's great when your kids come home now and they seem to have this relationship with their teachers, which is great, really. They can talk about anything and it's all very interactive and supportive. And I think, my goodness me. It was never like that when I was at school.
Well, like you, I went to a comprehensive school, which had prior to being a grammar school, and they'd changed it into a comprehensive school. But previous to that, I'd gone to an all-boys high school, which was really quite leery, you know. And if you questioned the teachers there, you got the cane. It was really that simple. If you back-chatted, questioned what they said or their judgment or their doctrine, it was touch your toes, lad. No questions, no argument, touch your toes, laddie. Out came the crop and bang, you know. Yeah. Depending on how much you'd annoyed them, you got between 2 and 6 across your backside.
I mean, it's hard to imagine that today, isn't it?
Yeah, but I did the smart thing because I was quite, I don't know, maybe a difficult pupil. So I very quickly worked out that it'd be a good idea to get an old pair of PE shorts, get a load of my mum's old tea towels and dusters, sew them into and wear them under my trousers. It would take the sting. And I always remember being sent to, we called the headmaster the boss, getting sent to the boss's office with 2 other guys who we'd particularly the 3 of us had a little clique, and we'd particularly upset a certain group of teachers. And one day in science, one of these teachers came in and he asked for me and these other 2 guys to go to Mr. Taylor, the headmaster's office. And then there was an array of teachers who were really upset with us sat around the coffee table in the boss's office. And he just said, right, you 3, you can't learn the easy way, you learn the hard way, touch your toes. Now, these other 2 lads were, I wasn't a hard man at school at all. These guys had got quite a reputation, you know, they were the guys you didn't mess with type thing. And I remember both of them coming out of there in floods of tears. And it was quite a question, a bit of an enigma really. Why me? I wasn't the hard man. I came out of there with a bit of a smirk on my face, and it was because of these tea towels.
That's a great story.
Thinking ahead, you see. So David, Transform Medical Group was sold back in what, 2002? And you carried on working for the new owners.
I did.
Yeah, and you say it was a different culture from working for John, who's a very well-known entrepreneur in these parts.
Yeah, it was. It was very different. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'd worked for an entrepreneur for so long.
Yes.
That sort of had its own style, and you know, that was very stamped on me. I learned a lot from him, as you know, I looked up to him, as I still do, as a mentor.
Yeah.
And everything I learned about business up until that point, I learned from him, really.
So what would you say was the key change or changes, 1 or 2 key changes or noticeable changes in the culture when it had been owned by an individual entrepreneur who you'd obviously become great friends with, worked very closely with, but had that sort of, let's say, Branson-esque entrepreneurial spirit and drive about him to working for a more corporate, structured environment?
Well, I suppose it was just very different. Decision making, I think, was an interesting one, because obviously now you've got various directors in place, protocols, and things seem to take a bit longer. But nonetheless, there was still a great desire to grow the business, and it's amazing how things work out, really, because when John sold the business, we had just finished making a documentary for Channel 4.
Okay.
And this had been, they'd been in the hospitals and clinics for the previous few months filming, you know.
Right.
And when John sold it, the documentary was about to be launched, and when it hit the TV, the business sort of went up another level. It was incredible, really. Yeah. It was the first documentary of its kind, really. There's been lots and lots of documentaries since, of course, about cosmetic surgery. Back then, this was one of the first.
Yeah.
So it catapulted the business to another level.
Interesting.
And they were another 3 very successful years.
Yeah. And
very
I know.
Successful years.
I know one of the founders. You've heard of GHD hair straighteners. So I know one of the founders of that business, and they sold out to another group when that was at its peak. But again, I don't know, new set of brains, new set of fresh ideas, and that then went up another notch or 2 as well after the original guys had sold it.
And I think that was a good thing. There were different sets of eyes, and they maybe saw things a little differently. and they improved things. Certainly, I think on the medical side, they opened up avenues to new hospitals,
Right.
and so on. So
Yeah.
it was a good time.
So how long did you stay there at Transform after it had been sold by John?
About 3 years.
Another 3 years. And then what did you do?
So by then, in 2005, the new owners of Transform sold again. So the business was sold again to private equity. Another deal was done.
Right.
And it was about that time I started to think, together with my wife, of course, we started to think, well, what now? And by this time, we had spent quite a bit of time in Spain and so on, and we could see that there was a lot of interest in medical tourism.
Right.
People going abroad for various procedures.
Yeah.
Spending time there.
Yeah.
And coming back home. Well, by this time, in 2005, people seem to be going to all sorts of far-flung places,
Yeah.
India and beyond, really.
Yeah.
Philippines, all sorts of places. But yeah, it seemed to us that nobody was going to the British most loved holiday destination, the Costas.
2.5 hours away.
2.5 hours away. So we went to Spain and we began a medical tourism company.
Okay. I was going to actually ask you about medical tourism. Yeah, that was one of my questions, because there are a lot of people, and we've all seen the programs on TV where it could be a facelift, it could be a hair transplant, a boob job, something like that, and people have gone to another country, maybe in Eastern Europe or somewhere like that, not too far away, or maybe even a bit further afield, and they've come back and things haven't worked out satisfactorily. How do you feel about medical tourism on the whole?
Well, the first thing I would say, of course, is that we can't say it's only the British who know how to do cosmetic surgery well.
No.
I mean, in countries across the world, there are some fantastic surgeons doing fantastic work.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
The key is making sure that when you get back home, you've got the proper care that you need.
The aftercare.
The aftercare. Assuming you're going to a reputable hospital and a reputable surgeon, and I appreciate there's work to be done around that.
Yeah.
But assuming that's the case, then it's when you get back home. What if? What if you have a complication? What are you going to do? Now the problem is, if someone comes back to England and has a complication, the chances are they're going to go to the NHS in most cases. Why? Because they don't normally want to fly back to the host country, especially if they've been to the Philippines, for example.
Yeah.
Because of the cost,
the
time. These are things where they go, oh no, I can't possibly go back. So they're then at the mercy of the National Health Service.
Sure.
And I think this is where medical tourism's got a bad reputation, because understandably the NHS are picking up the people.
So David, if somebody, watching this podcast is interested in some type of cosmetic procedure, obviously we can go online. What, say, 3 things would you advise people, if they're conducting their own due diligence, to really look for and pay attention to when making their decision?
Well, if there were 3 things, I would say, firstly, the surgeon. If you're looking to have cosmetic surgery, do your research on the surgeon.
Who are you going under the knife?
Who are you going under the knife with? That's not too difficult to do now.
Right.
Especially with all this information online. There are lots of reviews online about surgeons that patients have posted on. You can check out their good standing with the General Medical Council.
Okay.
The GMC, General Medical Council, have a website. You can check the qualifications and registrations.
Yeah.
And start with the surgeon.
Yeah.
Then when you've found the surgeon, you can check out the hospital. Normally a surgeon will have what's called practicing privileges at certain hospitals.
Okay.
And again, hospitals in this country now are regulated by the Care Quality Commission.
Right, okay.
And you can go online and find out how good or otherwise the hospital is and how
Yeah.
it's performing.
Yeah.
So you've got the hospital, the surgeon, and then, of course, the aftercare.
Yeah.
So you've had your operation done. What about aftercare? What happens if there's a problem? Do you have to pay if you have to go back to the theatre?
Yeah.
How accessible is your doctor if you need him?
Yes.
So I would say those are the three components.
Primary
really.
things.
But
yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, what you have to do is go along and have a consultation.
Yeah.
Go along and meet the surgeon. Once
Yeah.
you've checked out his qualifications, you need to go along and meet him or her.
Yeah.
And you know, how comfortable do you feel?
Yeah, yeah, of course,
You know,
of course.
Go with
yeah.
your gut feeling.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't feel comfortable, if it doesn't feel right, have another consultation.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the industry do advise that you have at least 3 consultations before making up your mind.
Right. You
So
mean with 3 separate?
3 separate surgeons, 3
Yeah.
separate clinics. So at least you have something to compare by.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So you were in Spain doing cosmetic surgery with a business there. That was,
Yeah.
you said you were in Spain for about 6 or 7 years, all
Yes.
told?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And what happened after that? You moved back to England full time now?
Yeah, we moved back to England. So we were there for about, probably around 7 years.
Yeah.
And then we sold that business. I think we were looking to come back to the UK.
Yeah.
While we were in Spain, 1 or 2 family members had passed away, which
Right.
sort of brought home the fact that you were no longer
Yeah.
living in the UK. So that hit home a bit. And I think around 2012 time, 2011, 2012, we were ready to come back.
Right.
We were
yeah.
ready to come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Our children were just at the point where they were going to need to go to secondary school. So again, timing was right.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
I
came back
understand.
to the UK.
Yeah, fantastic. And I understand you've opened a new cosmetic surgery business now. Yeah, tell me about that, please.
So when we got back, you know, I had no idea really what to do.
Right.
We were going to sort of give it some time. My wife was a nurse practitioner, so she began doing all the facial rejuvenation work that she normally did.
Okay.
But I didn't really know what to do. So at that time, I could see that there was a demand
Yes.
for penis enlargement surgery.
Wow.
I could see that there was a bubbling demand for this procedure, and it was performed by only 1 or 2 surgeons in the UK.
Yeah.
So I started to investigate this a little bit more.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I was doing some project work for John Ryan, who by this time had built up another cosmetic surgery company
Right.
called Maya, Make Yourself Amazing. And that was growing and growing and growing.
Great acronym.
A great acronym,
Yeah.
MYA. So I started to do some consultancy work for him. And then one conversation led to another.
Right.
And we formed another company,
Which is called.
now Moorgate Andrology.
Okay.
Is the trading name, Moorgate Andrology.
What does andrology mean? Forgive my ignorance.
So andrology is the subject of all diseases and conditions that are specific to men.
Okay.
So we began this company providing, in the beginning, penis enlargement surgery.
Okay.
Now that's developed into all sorts of other andrology procedures, such as penile implants for impotence, testicle replacement surgery,
Wow.
lots of other stuff like that. So we have a team of urologists now
Yes.
that provide that surgery
Wow.
on a sort of business model very similar. In fact, the business model hasn't really changed
No.
since the early 1990s.
No.
It would transform. The industry's changed, but the business model
Yeah.
hasn't.
Yeah.
So it's great now to be working once again with.
And so I'm
with
just
John.
going back in my mind's eye to that bus stop outside your hair
Yes.
transplant clinic, and I'm thinking of a bus stop outside a penis enlargement clinic. How many people would maybe not go in there? Is there a sort of funniness or stigma around that at the moment? Are we in the early adopter stages of this type of procedure?
We are,
Yeah.
Steve. Yeah, we're very much in the early adopter
Yeah.
stage, and I'm pretty sure if there was a bus stop right outside our clinics now, I'm sure guys would have the same apprehension that those girls did all those years ago.
Yeah.
But you know, it will change. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, John used to say to me, this business is for the next generation. It's not for you and me. It'll be the next generation of men and women that are managing cosmetic surgery companies. They will get the best from this industry, not us.
So do you think these types of male enhancement procedures, do you think that in time they will become as widespread, commonplace and popular and non-shocking as, say, boob jobs and hair transplants and facelifts are today?
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I mean, if you look now, guys are using all sorts of creams and lotions and potions, and no one bats an eyelid, do they? To guys putting on moisturiser.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was a young guy, you would never tell anybody you put. Well, we even did put moisturiser on your skin.
Absolutely not. No,
you just wouldn't do it, would you?
When I finish in the locker room in the gym, it's either Nivea or something else, L'Oreal product. Yeah, you put it, because when you've had a shower, particularly, your skin's quite dry, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
you shave.
It just doesn't feel the same. But I'm thinking back to when I was 17 or 18 and I was going to a few different gyms in South Yorkshire. If I'd have put moisturiser on my face, I'd have probably been bounced out of the gym.
I think you would. I think you would.
It's interesting how things change, isn't it?
Totally. So, you know, guys are coming now and they're going to doctors and they're having their Botox done, and they're having their face lifted, they're having their nose reshaped and their ears pinned back and their eye bags taken away.
Wow.
And now that's no big deal.
Yeah.
I think penis enlargement is not quite there yet.
No.
But, you know, we've had a lot of high-profile documentaries and so on the TV in the last 2-3 years, and attitudes are changing. Yeah.
So when guys do they come to see you about this? Prospective patients
well,
for this procedure?
I mean, we have a team of patient coordinators now who give the information, and then they're booked to see urologists, really. These are specialists in this kind of procedure because they have the knowledge of the anatomy for male genital surgery.
Of course. I was going to ask you, are guys specifically kind of embarrassed and a bit nervous when they first approach you? Presumably you advertise. Somebody rings up saying, I've seen your advertisement, could you tell me more? Are they generally nervous or embarrassed or a bit shy at first?
I think on the whole, yes.
Yeah.
They are on the whole. I mean, you know, there are conditions such as micropenis where a guy's penis never grows from being a boy.
Right.
And that's a serious problem. I mean, you know, if you saw these patients, you would think that the NHS should really be looking after them.
Yeah,
I think they probably would, but it's the old story with the NHS at the moment is where are you in the pecking order? And unfortunately, frankly, you're not going to die from a micropenis, so therefore it's not priority.
No.
So we do see men who are very, very embarrassed about their genital size, or not just that. Maybe they've lost a testicle through injury or
it's just
cancer.
a whole subject. I mean, it's a bit different from ringing up saying, "Can you do something about my double chin or something?" You know, or fill a bit of receding hair in. It's very different. It's a lot more personal, isn't it? I suppose.
Very, very much so. So obviously, nearly all guys want total confidentiality,
of course,
privacy. You know, and they get that when they come and meet the urologist. They can come and have a professional consultation.
Yes.
And, you know, and then they have to go through the whole screening element of being suitable for the surgery and so on. We involve their GP and so on. And then at the end of the day, if they're suitable, they can get these procedures done.
How long does the procedure take? How long is the operation?
For a penis enlargement, well, we can increase the length and thickness of the penis in about 1 hour.
Right.
It's quite a short procedure. Under general anaesthetic, you know.
Yeah. And what's the recovery period of this type of procedure?
For that,
until you're firing on all cylinders
again. Well, you wouldn't be firing on all cylinders for a good month.
Right.
So it's about a month when you sort of can't have any sexual activity.
Yeah.
Work-wise, if you work in an office, well, a few days.
Yes.
It's a more strenuous job, a good week or 10 days perhaps.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really slow you down that much.
Yeah, I remember I had a right side inguinal hernia operation years ago, and it was a good month to 6 weeks before I could walk without any pain.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it's quite as bad as that. Under normal recovery, most guys are back at work within a week.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? Yeah, it's a lot sooner than I expected.
Yeah, and also the other great change, one of the changes that I've seen, I seem to forget about quite often, is the fact that anaesthetics have improved a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know, in the old days, if you had an operation, you were sick and all over the place, it wiped you out.
Oh yeah.
And whilst that's still a possibility nowadays, patients seem to recover much, much quicker.
You're right. I remember having anaesthetic a few times when I was a kid at the dentist. And I was deemed to be allergic to it. I was so... I had the gas at first. I can still smell it. It's anchoring me back to... And then but I was equally bad after an injection as well, you know, and I was sick for 24 hours, violently sick.
I mean, can you remember the gas at the dentist? I mean, you'd never see that now, would you? I can remember Mother taking me. They dragged me up the stairs kicking and screaming because you knew what was coming. And then the nurse would carry you down the stairs after a general anaesthetic. I mean, when you think back,
it was awful,
really.
And yet, when I've had things done, you know, when I had that surgery for the hernia and stuff like that, you come round straight away, and I'm good, no problem at all, you know. But back then, the after effects of anaesthetic were really awful.
Terrible.
Yeah. So where do you see the future of the cosmetics? Do you see any new sort of procedures that we've not talked about coming into the fore in the coming years?
Well, I'm sure there will be. I mean, we always sort of say in our business, you know, what is going to be the next
thing?
Big thing.
Yeah.
There's certainly been a move in recent years to less invasive procedures.
Yeah.
Because now people want quick fix. They want something. They want to have something done as quick as possible and get back to their routine quick as possible.
We live in a world of like instant gratification now, don't we? You know, everything. The answer to almost everything is in the back pocket of your jeans, isn't it? In a mobile phone, you can find out anything. You know, brilliant. David, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure and really interesting and enlightening. David Mills from Moorgate Andrology. Thanks, David.
It's been my pleasure.
Cheers. So, David, in conclusion, it's been a really fascinating chat with you here. But if we went back to 1980-ish or something like that, and David Mills had his time again, knowing what you know now, with the benefit of hindsight, would you still get involved in the cosmetic surgery industry, or would you do something else?
I think that's a big question. You know, we've all asked each other that, haven't we? What if you had your time again? And none of us know if we ever will. But in truth, I would say if I had my time again, no, I wouldn't be involved in cosmetic surgery. I think if I had my time again, I would still be an overworked GP.
Right, okay.
If I had my time again.
Knowing what you know now, you wouldn't have taken the advice of the dogmatic teacher and you would have gone on and been a doctor, would you?
I would have done, I mean, I suppose
Fantastic.
I have to thank him because in many ways, I suppose he did me a favour. And you know, one has to be grateful for the opportunities that did come along.
You've probably had a more varied...
than the rewards that, you know, that they have brought. But, you know, looking back, I still would have been more than happy being a GP, a family doctor. And if I had my time again, if there's another time, I hope he's listening.
That's what you do. David, it's been fantastic. David Mills of Moorgate Andrology, thank you so much for your time.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.